Okay, well, I want to kind of do a little bit more precise work around the economic system, and then we're going to look at particularly the nonprofit human services kind of work and strategies for change and things like that. So we've got about a little more than an hour before we'll take a break. We may go till about 12:15 or so. So I want to look at, we keep looking at the system from different kind of places, the outside and the 10 chairs. We're going to look at it a little bit more analytically. I'm going to use this chart, again, to represent the population and the financial wealth of the country. And I'm going to draw a line up here representing 1% of the population, which controls about 42% of the financial wealth. And I'm going to call them the ruling class. Now, ruling class is not a phrase that we use very much in this country because of all the mythology we've been talking about level playing field and equal opportunity, and we're all middle class. But in fact, if you control nearly half of the wealth of the entire country, you do constitute a ruling class. And we've had a ruling class since the beginning of the country. If you think about it, the Constitution was written by a group of white Christian men who wrote into the Constitution that only white Christian men with wealth could vote, and that was only 10% of the population of the country. So we started out with the ruling class, and they have maintained themselves, although some families have come in and out. I mean, it's permeable to some extent, and it's increased as the population has increased, but so we have a ruling class. When I say financial wealth, I mean everything but people's personal possessions and homes. So stocks and bonds, the buildings, the land, all of the kinds of things that you can own besides your house, cars, personal things like that. I'm going to draw a line down here representing the next 19% of the population, which controls another 50% of the wealth of the United States. And I'm going to call them the managerial class because, in fact, many of them have jobs managing organizations and institutions and things like that. Now, if you add these figures up, it adds up to 92%. So the two classes together own just about everything that can be owned in this country, right? So the two classes together are the owning classes. And one other piece up at the top here that we need to talk about is I'm going to draw a circle here, composed kind of people from both the managerial and ruling classes. About 7,000 to 10,000 predominantly white Christian men who have traditionally been called the power elite. And they are, if you look at where decisions get made, they control vast amounts of wealth and resources and power. Corporate decisions, political decisions, judicial decisions, people at the tops of foundations, think tanks, the people at the very top of powerful organizations, you're going to find people from the power elite. And when I say predominantly white Christian men, there's a few women, there's a few people of color, there's a few Jews, but overwhelmingly it's a white male Christian network, culture, and their purpose is to make decisions that keep power and wealth at the top of the pyramid. And some of them, if you think about 7,000 or 10,000 people, that's not a conspiracy, some small group of people in a dark corner in a back room making decisions that control everything. They don't all know each other. It's a large group. But they do have positions of wealth and power. They do communicate through various ways. They do have a common interest, even if they don't talk to each other, which is preserving their wealth and power. Some of them are very public figures, and some of them are very little known. So it's not even that they're not public. Some of them are, the heads of major corporations or some of our political leaders. Well, if you do the math, then that leaves 80% of the population down here, dividing up about 8% of the wealth. And that's what we saw over here. That's that one chair. It's actually a little less than a chair, right? A little less than 10%. And 80% doesn't go into 8% very well, does it? It means we really are forced to compete with each other for the basics. Now, if you control all this power and wealth, you don't want people noticing that very often because they might get angry and upset about it. So there's a lot of things in our society that distract us from looking at this. They keep our attention and time focused elsewhere. What are some of the things that are distractions in U.S. society from looking at the economic system?
Professional sports.
Professional sports. How much time do we watch other people play games? What else?
Shopping malls.
Shopping malls, consumption, advertising, the whole consumer industry.
Television.
Television. What else?
Patriotism.
Patriotism. And wars. Keeping our attention on Iraq, Afghanistan, rather than right here in our own neighborhoods.
Elections.
Elections. We go through an annual cycle of almost 2 years of attention on the choice of which person from the top of this pyramid we're going to have guiding the economy for the next 2 years, or next 4 years. So the elections become incredible drama that keeps our attention away from the everyday political and economic realities around us.
Yeah, problems in Russia and Zimbabwe or elsewhere.
Right. Situations elsewhere, the Sudan or wherever it is. And fear, because we're fed a constant litany of things to be afraid of, right? Welfare mothers, recent immigrants, terrorists, anthrax, West Nile disease, avian flu. I mean, well, that's a legitimate fear. I'm talking about not legitimate fear. But it's amazing how much we live with given a constant litany of things to fear. And often they involve fear of people at the bottom of this pyramid, which keeps our attention, again, directed away. Now, if you think about most of these distractions, they're not only distractions in terms of keeping our attention elsewhere, they're also economic systems taking money out of our pockets, whether it's spectator sports or prostitution and pornography or shopping or technology. They're also economic systems moving money up to the top of the pyramid. In addition, most of them rely on the objectification and exploitation of people of color and women as part of the distraction, the sexualization, the eroticization of the bodies. If you think about spectator sports or pornography or shopping, advertising, all of that is about the manipulation of our racial and gender systems as well as the economic system.